Hello, everyone. This is Christine DeGraff with TNT Bootcamp, and I'm here today with my co-host, Ronnie Bincer. Hey, Ronnie, say hi.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
And we have a special guest today, and we're just going to jump right into it. His name is Ammon Johns, and if you haven't heard of him yet, you need to look him up. I'm going to let him introduce himself, tell us a little bit about his background. I can tell you that if we're talking about experts here, Ammon is definitely an expert in SEO and marketing and probably lots of other things. So let me introduce Ammon Johns, and hello.
Hello. Great to be here. Oh, where to introduce myself? Well, it's about 20 years now that I've been doing first web development, which didn't last too long, thankfully, for my clients, because as a developer, I sucked. My designs, I look at artistic people doing fantastic website designs, and I just wish. You know, the difference was I just didn't fill up screens with animated GIFs, which made you a professional back then.
Of course, nowadays with the how professional themes are, you don't actually have to be a graphic designer to be a good web developer, I don't think. What do you think about that?
That's true, although I like to build custom every single time. I don't want anybody else using the same theme that I'm using or using the same setup. And also, themes tend to be built for a wide audience. They'll aim to have it so it's usable by lots of people. It's got a lot of hooks and apps and things that you do not need for your case. And they're all there in the code. So you'll get a better look by just building what you need.
Well, tell us more about your background. So I interrupted you, so go ahead.
So I was sort of a year into development, and it was back in the early days where we'd been promised, oh, there's millions of people online, and the first clients who'd been brave enough to go with me sort of, we like the site, the users like the site, but where are all these millions of people we heard about? Like everybody else, I didn't know, and I said so. I said, look, I don't know, but I'll do some digging around. I'll look for some, ideas on how to get more people to the site. We'll work out a payment scale. Basically, I'll do the research for free, but if I find something useful, I'll charge you for that time and time to implement. And 6 months after that, most of the clients coming to me were, hello, you don't know me, but George recommended you, and do we have to have a website? We just want you to do that traffic thing. And, I didn't fancy the domain, thattrafficthing.com at the time. I should have. But I started, working in that area, shut down my design website, and I've been doing web promotion and then internet marketing ever since.
And you said, all right, so tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. What kind of business are you in? What kind of clients do you have? And how did you get from there to here?
A long, strange journey. In the early days, there were two kinds of clients who hired SEOs. There were the clients who weren't worried about reputation, which kind of meant the classic PPC, pills, porn and casinos, and the small businesses, the mom and pops and the little workshops and craft shops. So that's where I started, with the industrial scale casinos and adult industry, where that's real eye-opening stuff. The scale that you're working on, where it's thousands of views per minute in some cases, gave you the necessity to have robust solutions, things that were going to work well. And working for the small mom and pops gave you the humility and understanding what can be done realistically with somebody who's already busy and has a very small budget. So between those two, it gave me a great grounding right from the start, the opposites. Little while after that, that was working for myself originally. I started my own company. I got to a point where I was living in London. It's very expensive. The property prices, the wages expectations are high, and I got to that point where I'm working almost flat out in the way that a solo entrepreneur does. A third of my time is in managing the business. A third of my time is in doing the business, and a third of the time is in selling your business. I'd reached my capacity, and to take anybody else on, well, do I take a salesman, but there's only me to do the work, or do I take an apprentice, do the SEO part, but then I've got to sell for both of us, and that's the bit I don't really like. So I kind of got stuck, and that was when somebody else came along that I knew and said, come work for us. So I took the agency role for a while. I'd spent a little while in-house as well. That was with a startup company called du.co.uk, and that was an opinions website. When I first started, they were doing about 5,000 unique visitors a day, maybe. But at the end, it was 50,000 unique visitors per day. At the end of the year, we were the fastest entry into the top 10 shopping.
Wow.
It's fun to be in-house for a while. Get to see a different side of the business. There's one thing when the guy who's been paid to hire you is talking to you, he's giving a marketer's view of what he wants you to know about his company. When you're there in the trenches and you're seeing the editors and the writers and the issues they've got, you get a whole new perspective, and it broadens it out again. For instance, one of the things that happened was they had a deal to provide content to others, to provide these reviews that would be served through another platform. It was Virgin Media at the time. And the deal fell through because on the day, as they were about to sign the deal, they brought up the homepage, and the one on the front page was full of expletives. And I said, that's it, we cannot have that on our site. And they came back from me in very dejected, 6 figures per month lost. And I said, oh, well, that's easy. What you do is new opinions only get shown to logged in users. And we've got the ability to determine who's voted the same way, who's rated things the same way as our editors. We'll run an algorithm, locate those people. When they're reviewing things, if 5 of them agree this is okay, we know it's not going to be a real problem, so we let it live. If 3 of them reject it, we know it's got a problem. It goes out of the site entirely, doesn't even get shown to logged in users, it goes for editorial review. And that just hadn't occurred to them, but that kind of systems thinking is something that SEO teaches you very, very quickly. And for my agency, I've gone back to my roots. I now work for myself. I've got my own agency again. That's the way I like it.
Now we've got a question already from Mel. Ammon, what has changed about the industry from the time you started until now? And geez, that could probably take a whole show to try to answer that question.
There's a lot that's changed. When I first started, the search engines viewed us as absolute poison. There was no equivalent of Matt Cutts talking with webmasters. AltaVista had a very different policy. You know, the webmaster's place is in the wrong. That was kind of the way they approached it. These days, the engines are much more open. So Google and Bing both talk to webmasters openly. They understand the importance of education. I'd say that Google's getting a bit more adversarial again, but that's another point. The other thing is the people who will talk to us. Literally, when I first started, I had to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, to even talk to a company that was over 10 people. Because they thought, SEO, you're influencing search results, you must be hacking. We're not going to talk to you unless you agree to nobody, this conversation never happened, right? And it's a huge change. Everybody knows now that search marketing is effective. They don't all believe in SEO and the principles of it, but they all know that search is really important. That's a big change.
But you just transitioned words. You said search marketing, and that's different than SEO. How would you define the difference? Okay,
well, we started off actually with SEO. That was the first one that gained its own title. And
for those that aren't familiar, search engine optimization. That's what SEO is about. Okay.
Yeah. Of course, us Brits, we spell it with an S in optimization, and you Americans have a Z, so even there's a schism.
Okay.
There was no paid search in those days. There was just where you were in the organic results. There were only organic results. As new kinds of search have come along, it's broadened it. And when paid search came in, some SEO said, no, paying for it is cheating. That's not SEO. That's not the same skill set. That's different. Some companies did both. and of course some only did the paid search. So search marketing was the all-inclusive term for all of those things. And then later on we got extra models come in. We had paid feeds that could go into the search engines. We've of course got local search, we've got news search, we've got all these other things that have come in. So search marketing is the bigger picture.
Now, we also have social media marketing, and that's sort of relatively new. I mean, all this stuff is sort of new, but it's on this trajectory, in my opinion, of being actually one of the key ways that non-SEO people can do SEO. What are your thoughts on that?
I'd almost say it's web promotion back to where it was before SEO. Social has an effect on search, but it's tangential sometimes. It's if lots of people are finding this through social, and lots of people are interacting with the site, and Google knows that lots of people are interacting with the site because they're using Chrome, which tells them, or they're using the Google toolbars in other browsers, which tells them exactly what page they're on, every page they ever load, then Google knows this is an important site and it's much more likely to crawl it. It knows the people who are interacting with it. If some of those people link to it or talk about it, those are knock-on effects that often include links, which of course we do know helps Google straight away, and we know it helps Bing and all the other search engines. So it's kind of tangential. Success breeds success, much like money breeds money.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get success through social, it will increase your chance of success through search.
Now, this isn't on our list of questions, so I'm going to throw one out to you. If someone isn't so much focused on their own website, but is more focused on being popular or well-known in a social environment, for example, Google+, is there any real value to what they're doing if they're not focused on their website, but they're focused on becoming an authority known within a place like Google+?
Okay. Obvious example, Mike Alton. But there is now a Mike. I think if somebody else does this, they're not going to get the same results he did, because he gets it because he's the first to do that, and everyone's interested in where that's going to go. Is this going to work? And that itself kind of builds extra bars and extra credibility around it. I think for most people, your own site is always the hub, the core of all of your online marketing activity, and everything else should be reinforcing that, partly because you own it. A platform, no matter how much you love it, can disappear. We've seen this happen time and time again over the years, going back to Yahoo groups and web rings, and everything over the years has shown that even something really successful can be shelved when they've got some new idea comes out. And guess what? All your hard work's gone with it.
Yeah, and just as play devil's advocate on that, if Google, for example, didn't like you, they could shut down your visibility. So even though you own your own website, if nobody new can find it because they can't search for it or get results for it, there's a problem there too.
You could say that, but even though Bing only has 10% of the traffic that Google does, there's a couple of little tricks to that. I mean, for a start, the stats are based on the number of searches, not the number of users. Microsoft still has the tie-in, and a lot of people who don't use the internet very often use Bing. But they don't use the internet very often. The average Google searcher makes 10 times as many searches as anybody else. So when you look at the stats that says Google's 10 times bigger, that means it's got exactly the same number of users, because we already know their users make 10 times as many searches. So when you're talking about market, because I can only sell to one person regardless of how many searches they make, actually the markets are about even. Google may ignore me, Bing probably won't, Yandex won't, Baidu won't. It's a big world out there. Even if 90% of it wasn't interested in my product, 10% of the entire world's population is a hell of a market.
So don't tick them all off, right?
Exactly.
So, Christine, I'm going to ask one of our first questions we had here, and that was, Ammon, how would you define marketing versus a lot of people will say, I'm doing marketing, and as an expert such as yourself, you might look at it and say, no, you're doing sales. You're not doing marketing. So would you walk us through the basics, the baseline from which you start for what is marketing?
Okay. Well, the first thing is that marketing is probably the most misunderstood word in the English language, because it's so, we've all heard it, so we all think we know it. But honestly, 90% of people don't know it. So I'm sorry, audience, but the chances are most of you may not know precisely what marketing means. We tend to think of it as another word for advertising or promotion. It's not that at all. Those are within marketing. They are activities within it. Promotion is one of the 4 Ps of marketing. But marketing itself is a whole different approach to business. The old school approach to business was, I can make this thing, so I make this thing, and then I look for a market for it. Marketing was taking that backwards. It was saying, well, that's not very scientific. What we ought to do is first find out what people really are screaming out to buy. What do people really want? Then look if we could make it and make a profit from selling it, and then produce the product they actually already want instead of trying to make them want whatever we happen to produce. That is marketing.
Interesting. It also ties into the idea of doing research, finding what people are saying they would buy something for, and then you make the thing that they said yes they would buy it for that.
Yes, yes. And it's why I'm often saying that the most important thing about social media and social media marketing isn't what you do, it isn't what you say, it's how you listen. Because it used to be that to get market research cost you £50,000, $80,000 easily, to do a small panel of people that would answer questions for an hour. With social media, you can tune in on these conversations that are going on all around the world, all of the time, for free. And all you've got to do is set up the time to be listening.
As someone who's new, coming in, starting a business, or has recently started a business, and they have a blog that they want to promote, what should they be focusing on? SEO, but where do they start? How do they get started? What are the most important points? How much time on social media? What would you recommend, or should they just start hiring someone? And how, if they did go that route, what should they be looking for? And that's about 20 questions, sorry.
Yeah. Well, let's look at this from the marketing perspective. And the first thing you do is you find what there is already a market for. And you may think you've got your product right, but so often your product is based on what you want to sell rather than what people already want to buy. And sometimes you need to do that thing of tweaking that, making it more akin to what they want to buy rather than what you want to provide or feel comfortable providing. So first understand demand, learn to look for that demand, look for the criticisms, look for why people aren't buying products in this type. What's missing? What could you add to yours that would suddenly grab that whole market? And even with markets that you think are really well established, the person who gets it right gets it right. There were tons of MP3 players before the iPod, and they thought they'd solved it. Oh yeah, well, what we need to do is store about 100 songs on a thing that's got a battery life of a day. And Steve Jobs, bless him forever, said, nah. What they want to do is store their entire music collection, have it all, so they don't have to mess around every day with just picking the 100 songs they fancy, because you don't know where your day is going to go. You don't know what mood you're going to be in the afternoon. So let's let them put their whole collection on one device and walk around, and you know what? Let's have the batteries last for 2-3 days. Fantastic. And he understood an aspect of the market that nobody had even thought to think about before. They were all focused on their product and what they could produce. Instead, he thought, how do people live with these devices? What do they really do with it? Understand that. So start with your product, then get your site in order so that your site is accurately portraying and explaining how your product works, how this solves problems for people. And from there, branch out into social media or into video marketing, and you've got that solid core. If your product isn't good, it doesn't matter how much you are going to promote it out there, you're never going to get great results from it. You're putting lipstick on a pig and trying to claim it's your date.
I think by the same token, a lot of, you could have the best product, you could have, tons of traffic, but if you haven't figured out how to convert them from browsers to buyers, then that's not going to really help you either. So.
Yeah. A lot of people don't understand the things they buy. Certainly we see that in web design and SEO. Most people who buy it don't know how to do it. That's why they're buying it. And we see this in other things too. If you look at the video industry, there was this classic time between Betamax and VHS. Nobody who knows video will tell you that VHS was the better system. Betamax was the one. It had the tie-in because it was actually the same system that the professional studios used. But VHS did more of the deals with the people supplying the video cassettes. So when you went to your video store, there were more films available on VHS than there were on Betamax. That solved it. And especially once the adult industry decided, we're fed up with doing two formats, we're just going to do VHS from now on. Blu-ray won because that was the one the adult industry decided on very, very early on.
So that was focusing on a tangential thing. It wasn't actually on the product. It was the distribution of the product or something like that.
Yeah.
How do you now advise people to look at a different angle? In other words, isn't that something that you help them do?
Yes, pretty much. Part of my thing, I've always had this ability to see other sides to things. And I question things a lot. And that's what I bring to businesses, is often saying, well, look, let's look at it from some other angles. It's easy to get in your business. It's easy to be worried about our baby. This is our baby. We've got the mother's perspective. You know what? Your baby's always beautiful if you're the mother. What you've got to do is look, yeah, are other people's faces falling when they're seeing your beautiful baby? You know, are they plugging their ears because it's crying too much? Look for these little signs, but also think about the journey ahead. Understand this baby's going to grow. When you're looking at your business, you look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Where possible, turn your threats into extra opportunities. Think of the things that could wipe your business out, and then invest in sidelines that either minimize that threat or that actually give you something else that really works when that happens.
Now I'm going to ask you to define the 4 Ps. You can just list them because some people are wondering, and then add in another P, which is part of the USP, meaning how important is a USP, and I'll let you define what those acronyms are.
Okay. So the classic 4 Ps of marketing, it got expanded to 7 by some people like to, but the classic 4 Ps are the ones I use. Product, place, price, promotion. And promotion is the one everyone thinks marketing is entirely about. It's only 1/4 of the mix. We call this the marketing mix. And what it means is I could produce the top cutting-edge product, the best product in the world. But the problem with creating the best product in the world is it's so expensive now, most people can't afford it. This is Rolls-Royce. This is that classic supercar. This is the space shuttle. You know, it's something your ordinary customer can't afford. So we always say, oh, make your product as good as possible. Actually, when you do that, you come into a very, very narrow niche. What you need to do is find the best balance between the product and the price. Place, people think that the internet has taken that out of the equation. It certainly has not. Your placement, if you ship products, being close to a good distribution center, airports, trucks, things like that, is going to be absolutely critical for your delivery costs. Amazon really do nail this. Their distribution is one of the core things they built their entire business on. But also think of it in the way that Google do. Now they've got offices all over the world, and they're in locations that they know they can bring staff to because brains are their resource. And if you put your centers in places where there's access to lots of highly trained, educated people with PhDs in their case, then that's going to help you recruit. And if you put them in towns that people want to be in, you know, if you put a business in Austin, it's easy to recruit people to Austin. If you put it in some very backwoods town in Alabama, it's going to be a bit harder to get people to it. If you put it in Alaska, you're going to have 5 staff if you're lucky. So, you know, understanding that this is going to affect your costs and your promotion, because when you're dealing with local business, the radius at which you can deliver is going to be very, very important. And people will travel further. They will ship things, worry about distance less, but it takes that bit more promotion or a better price to do it. So you understand all four things play into each other.
Yeah, I think one thing I wanted to add in about the price is, that's how I actually got started with Circuloscope, is I was advising, I was giving some feedback to Esham about the product. I was using it. It was $5 for the lifetime. And one of my first things I said, Esham, I said, you've got to raise your price like by 10 times at least. First of all, it's not sustainable at this price point. But also, I said you need to realize that a lot of people have put a low value on it because of its low price. So we actually increased the price from $5 for lifetime to $47 a year, and sold more at a higher price. So that's what I think a lot of people miss out on price, is how important that is.
It's one of my personal bugbears in marketing, is the way it's got dumbed down to everyone just competing on price. Cutthroat marketing, where they're cutting their own throats. Any idiot can sell a product by just taking its price down below what it's worth. Any idiot can do that. The marketer is the guy who can make people pay more for the product. If you're not doing that, you're not marketing. You're not really thinking of getting the maximum possible profit. There's a science to business. It's not about doing the least you can. It's about getting the best balance, because the stronger your company is, the faster it can grow, the more you can invest in future products, because no matter what market you're in, the world changes. Once upon a time, breeding horses was one of the greatest businesses you could be in, because everyone needed them to get around. Then along came the motor car, and of course that wasn't going to make a difference. Those smelly things, noisy, terrible, really uncomfortable. Yeah, we don't have to worry at all. Most engineers, started out as blacksmiths. So you've got to understand things change and maximise your business for being able to ride those changes out.
Now, the speed at which things change has increased dramatically, and the internet is helping that move quickly. How are you, as a consultant, helping people look for new opportunities and look at those threats or the things that you talked about on the sidelines and realize this is the one we need to actually focus on now?
It's difficult. There's no two ways about it. There are these people that spend their lives doing nothing but analysing businesses. They call them venture capitalists. And even for those guys, 90% of their investments do not pay off. They know so much about businesses. They've seen so many wins and losses. They know all these things, and still you can't beat the odds so completely. What they do is they do baskets of investments. You invest in 10 companies. 8 are going to fail at a loss. Your money's gone. One of them is going to just do enough that you get your money back, and one of them goes big. That's simply playing the odds. That's a basket of investments, and you've got to understand sometimes that you can't predict everything. What you can do is improve your odds. 95% of businesses go bust within their first 3 to 5 years and don't make back the investment that they had. They don't make an overall profit at all. You've got to understand that, and understand that through being smart, you can get your odds to, instead of 95% chance, you can get it down to 90, even 85.
But as a solopreneur, for example, how do we manage that? I mean, we don't have a basket per se. We've got a primary thing that we're focused on. How would you assist someone that's a solopreneur to look at all the other options that are feasible for a one-person shop to run or do?
You may not like this answer, but it is understanding that no matter what you do, bad things happen to good people. Bad luck happens to everybody. It's how you survive it, how you get up from it, that determines whether you're a success or a failure. Henry Ford went bankrupt 5 times trying to set up his production line process. Ford Motors proves that in the end he was successful, but 5 times he went bankrupt. So the most important lesson for all the solopreneurs and small entrepreneurs out there, understand failure is possible no matter what. No matter how right you are, Understand failure can happen. The very first thing you need to do is separate your business finances from your personal. So many people starting up a business do it with using their own credit cards, their own business, their own name for the business, their own address for the business. And if that business goes under and it's got debts, there's no separation. So they are coming straight for your money, your house, your goods. You've been wiped. You can't get back up from that bankruptcy. Understand, you need to set up an LLC early on. You need to not mix the two finances together so that when your business goes under, the debts stop there. And if it went under because it didn't have any money. So great, there was nothing for them to take. Make sure that that safety net is there to catch you and that you aren't going to go straight through it.
Well, that's excellent advice. I want to bring up a couple comments because we do have a lot of people commenting and asking questions. So if you could go through them as fast as you can. Carmen wants to know, how do you know the best moment to launch a new product?
When you're fired up about it. Your energy, your belief in this is going to be a core part of your ability to move this forwards. You just know when it's the right time. If you're in doubt, half the time it's procrastination, you're worried about it, put your safety net in place and go for it. If you're going to fail, and it can happen to anybody, no matter how long you spend planning, you can still fail. If you're going to fail, fail safe and fail spectacularly.
And fail fast, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So you can get on with the next idea.
And Mel wanted to know from Ronnie, how do you weigh the time you should spend building a personality on a platform versus building a business?
I don't have the great answer for that. So that's why I was asking Ammon to see if he would give us some input on that.
You've got to understand your time is limited. You've got to put it where it's most effective, especially when you're a small company and starting out. The website is going to be the core for everything. Everything you do ties back to the website. If I've heard of you, somebody at the water cooler is talking about you, somebody down the supermarket was talking about you, I can go on Google, look up your site, and it's your site that's going to turn up. I put your name into search, it's usually your site that comes up. If it's your social media profile, that can still link to your site. Your site lets you do that work once of explaining what your product is, what your business is, once very effectively, and then reusing that again and again all over the place. So start with your website. Afterwards, think about what you want to achieve from social media. Are you simply engaging customers? Is this a customer service exercise? Is this a marketing exercise? Or is this a personal branding exercise? Understand which you're going for and why, and that will help you really get your timescales right. If in doubt, get some advice.
Here's a fun question from Stepan. He says, okay, SEO question, how do I get on the first page of Google?
No, he said, how do I get to the first page of Google? Type in a search, and there's the first
page. How do I get to the first page of Google? Type in google.com. There you go.
It's really, really simple. The best thing for any business is, do you know what the most important search to be in #1 position is for Amazon? It's Amazon. Why? Because more people do that search per day than anything else. eBay, it's eBay. Google, it's because you open your browser and there it is. So understand that actually search marketing is great, but your goal is always brand marketing, so that people are looking for your name in the first place. You're never going to be beaten for the first page of that.
Got another question here, a good one from Rain. She wants to know if you believe in pre-selling a product or service.
I believe in it. I've seen it. Yes, I often do. I think it's great if you can pre-sell. It's risky, of course, because you need to be able to deliver, and that's where you've got to make sure that your finances really are airtight from your business. Because if this goes, you don't want all those people coming to you to, get debts or even sue you for breach of promise, and they're suing you personally rather than the company. But yes, it's great when it works, but be safe.
So a quick one, because I don't know how close we are to the end. That's Christine. She's got the magical button. But
5 more minutes.
Okay. How important is a USP, unique sales proposition?
Massively. It's the most important thing in the world right now. It used to be that any business could, by being local, have an audience. And you know what? Local businesses still have that a little bit. But the fact is that service businesses especially, the whole point of a service business is it's very cheap to set up. It doesn't have high overheads, you only need the staff, it's what the staff can do. There's very little barrier to entry. You can copy from other people. So that means that when you've got a successful service business, all your competitors that are yet to be are looking at that easy entry into the market. If you don't have something unique that sets you apart that can't be copied, you're in problems. That market is going to become cheaper and cheaper as all those people start undercutting you and undercutting you. So you've got to have a USP. Sometimes it can be the clients you've had, because they won't have had those. And if you've built up the right kind of reputation, or you're running a particular workshop or something like that that just adds something, sometimes it can be quite small. Other times, you know, the USP is everything. These days, I don't care. When I order a new computer, I don't care whether it comes from a factory down the road, a factory further in my own country, or somewhere in the backwoods of Timbuktu. It doesn't matter if they can all provide it at the end of the week delivery. It really doesn't. That's what I'm going to be looking at. What's the price and when is it delivered? If you don't have a USP that adds something to that, I'm always going to go with the lowest supplier. And for those of us in the UK and US, it's probably not going to be us.
China.
William Rock wants to know, okay, with all of this said, how does he know if you're doing it correct? When do you know?
It's if you're in business and you've got business coming in, you're doing it right. That's right. That's as right as it gets. The customer tells you you're right. Always be looking for the areas where you could be more right, more customers, and be aware of those threats coming up. You know, look for when a customer leaves, why did they leave? Could more go for the same reason? Is there a new competitor coming up? How do you protect against that? Look at the things you can do to protect your ongoing income. At the end of the day, the person who's on your side is you and who you hire. Don't expect the customers to always, you know, help you out. Loyalty is, it's the name they put on a card, or what we call programs. You know, loyalty is very tenuous. If we were loyal, we wouldn't be using the internet to shop in the first place. We'd still be going to those stores that we used to be loyal to. Remember them?
As long as they carry things now that the internet has made them stop carrying.
Stefan was saying, yes, you measure correctly by identifying your goals, whatever they are, and measuring if you're achieving them, rinse and repeat and refine if necessary. And just to bring it up, Stefan will be our guest on Monday, December 15th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. So we're looking forward to talking to him about some of his pro tips and his pro tip series.
Cool.
Last words, Ammon.
Oh, I hope not. I'm not going to die yet, am I? Thanks for having me on. Glad that we got through quite a lot of questions. If there's any more in the event stream, I'll try and get to those later.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there definitely are. So how can people reach you? And just give us a little plug about your shows that you're doing.
Okay, well, you can reach me best Google+. It's a very good platform for it. I'm also on Twitter and Facebook and the others, as you'd expect. Put my name into a search engine, you should find me. The shows I'm doing, well, the one that excites me most has to be Ammonize, and I do live consulting. I literally get clients on and we go through their business, meeting with them to look at where they're at, what their resources are, what they can do in their marketing, and it's a great show, a lot of fun for me. I've had some great clients on, and that's the one I love the most. But I've also got a casual hangout with an old friend of mine, Bill Slavsky, that's on every Tuesdays. It's as bogus as you can get, and that's what we call it, Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout. Pure chat show with a couple of SEOs. John Mueller drops in every now and again, and we never know quite who's turning up until it happens. That's
so I have a quick follow-up question for you. Do you do consulting services using Hangouts? In other words, people all over the world could take advantage of your wisdom?
Yes.
Excellent.
Skype, Hangouts, pretty much any way that the customer wants to get in touch with me. But I do like Hangouts a lot. It's one of the reasons, you know, I invested in the high-end setup so I can deliver more through the video medium.
Yeah, we definitely, everybody's jealous of your background, I'm sure. All right, well, I guess that's it for this time. Anything to add, Ronnie?
No, thanks everyone for being part of the show. If you are watching this after it's live, please feel free to add more comments and we'll try to get back to them and address them. And thank you also for watching us live. We appreciate it.
All right, everybody have a good day.